If we look back over history, industries representing all great trends went through bubbles. The difference between the tulip bubble and the internet bubble was that while tulips were not completely without value, there was no way for their value to grow sustainably. The internet, however, had a value that could grow over time. All the way through the internet bubble, the internet was growing, creating value, and changing the world. Why do all great trends go through a bubble? The best explanation comes from John Fisher's transition curve. Why do all great trends go through a bubble? The best explanation comes from John Fisher's transition curve. When going through a transition, after some initial anxiety, people feel happy because they think that at last something's going to change, but then they often enter into a myriad of negative emotions. Some people deny the negative emotions and then crash later, while some slowly fall into feelings of fear, guilt, and even depression. While some eventually give up, others slowly begin to accept and adapt to the change, but this only happens after a long process. Major trends, which becomes apparent after many years, must initially go through the process of acceptance described above. Major trends, which becomes apparent after many years, must initially go through the process of acceptance described above. The first crest in the curve is the course of the bubble, and the ensuing through ensuing through is the reason for the bubble bursting. This is shown most clearly in the markets because the market price at each moment is a representation of everyone in the market's collective understanding of an investment. When people are feeling disillusioned, the bubble pops. So, contrary to what most people think, the popping of the bubble quite possibly represents opportunities. Whether or not there is actually an opportunity depends on whether or not the object of the bubble has long-term sustainable value and growth potential. If it does, then there is an opportunity. Furthermore, it is possible that bubbles may continue to occur until its value has been fully realized. So, contrary to what most people think, the popping of the bubble quite possibly represents opportunity. Whether or not there is actually an opportunity depends on whether or not the object of the bubble has long-term sustainable value and growth potential. If it does, then there is an opportunity. The popping of the bubble quite possibly represents opportunity. Whether or not there is actually an opportunity depends on whether or not the object of the bubble has long-term sustainable value and growth potential. After reaching an all-time high of 19,800 in December of 2017, Bitcoin entered a long bear market. As of October of 2019, it remains in a bear market, with its price less than 43% of its all-time high. But is the popping of this bubble different from the popping of the previous bubbles in the Bitcoin market? Since its inception, Bitcoin has been pronounced dead 337 times as of October 11th, 2019. Each short bull market has been called a bubble, and they have all popped, but the popping of the bubble in 2017 has one difference from previous bubbles. No one denies Bitcoin's value. After reaching an all-time high of $19,800 in December of 2017, Bitcoin entered a long bear market. As of October of 2019, it remains in the bear market with its price less than 43% of its all-time high. But is the popping of its bubble different from the popping of previous bubbles in the Bitcoin market? But is the popping of this bubble different from the popping of previous bubbles in the Bitcoin market? Since its inception, Bitcoin has been pronounced dead 337 times as of October 11th, 2019. Each short bull market has been called a bubble, and they have all popped. But the popping of the bubble in 2017 has one difference from previous bubbles. No one denies Bitcoin's value. This is an extremely important, if subtle, difference. I have a very simple, direct, brutal, and effective way to determine if a trend is established. Don't look at how many people have already accepted it. Look to see if most people can no longer deny it. This is an extremely important, if subtle, difference. I have a very simple, direct, brutal, and effective way to determine if a trend is established. Don't look at how many people have already accepted it. Look to see if most people can no longer deny it. Undeniability is an impossible sign of an established trend. Undeniability is an important sign of an established trend. It doesn't matter whether or not they understand it, or whether or not they accept it. If they can't deny it, then the trend has basically already filled up the bubble. This is the best signal of regular investor to decide when to enter the market. This is why I didn't reduce box, my no-load, my management fee blockchain ETF until July of 2019, even though my thinking about the designs for a blockchain ETF began in 2015. Undeniability is an important sign of an established trend. It doesn't matter whether or not they understand it, or whether or not they accept it. If they can't deny it, then the trend has basically already filled up the bubble. This is the best signal for regular investors to decide when to enter the market. This is why I didn't introduce box, my no-load, no management fee blockchain ETF until July of 2019, even though my thinking about it and designs for a blockchain ETF began in 2015. It is important to point out that most novice investors fall into the trap of looking for the next. Actually, very few people succeed by choosing carefully and holding over the long term, whether through regular investing or not. and the vast majority of people never make deep macro observation from a long-term perspective, but everyone is jealous of those who have already succeeded, so they can't help but thinking, if only I had also chosen correctly that early. It's important to point out that most novice investors fall into the trap of looking for the next. Actually, very few people succeed by choosing carefully and holding over the long term, whether through regular investing or not, and the vast majority of people never make deep macro observations from a long-term perspective, but everyone is jealous of those who have already succeeded, so they can't help but thinking, if only I had also chosen correctly that early, but it's hard for that thought not to evolve into this next thought. I also want to find an investment that I can get in early on. I also want, but it's hard for that thought not to evolve into the 什么？
都是实什么？1、2、反正4个大题。
你别在那算了，让脑子在那算那个不
写完
如就
了，我快写完了，但是我没算。你这不就在算吗？好多人在算了。一个黑两头，这玩意儿是啥？
你脑子跑
我不动。
跑好快啊！
这张小丽，什么？这张小丽说。
你还喝啊？
我说他讲的。
今天别喝了啊！
行了行了。
喝了不少了。
这玩意儿到底是啥？
不知道。
不知道，我摸着它硬的，你听不见。
But it's hard for that thought not to evolve into this next thought. I also want to find an investment that I can get in early on. I also want to find an investment that I can get in early on. This is a dangerous thought, especially for novice investors. The problem is the more of a novice one is, the stronger this thought is. Just ask yourself, have you had this thought? Then ask yourself again, didn't you have this thought as soon as you started investing? Doesn't this thought always make you feel anxious? Then ask yourself again, didn't you have this thought as soon as you started investing? Doesn't this thought always make you feel anxiety? This is a dangerous thought, especially for novice investors. The problem is, the more of the novice one is, the stronger this thought is. Just ask yourself, have you had this thought? Then ask yourself again, didn't you have this thought as soon as you started investing? Doesn't this thought always make you feel anxious? There are lots of details that those who are about to fall into this trap don't know. For instance, there are actually quite a few major trends that will really change the world. Also, if a new major trend does appear, it will probably be years from now. rather than right now or in the immediate future. More importantly, the development of great trend that has already been identified will continue for a long time with increasingly rapid growth. Actually, this one is much more realistic than the next one. If we are able to grab onto one major trend in our lifetime, we are already very lucky. There are lots of details that those who are about to fall into this trap don't know. For instance, there are actually quite a few major trends that will really change the world. Also, if a new major trend does appear, it will probably be years from now, rather than right now or in the immediate future. More importantly, the development of a great trend that has already been identified will continue for a long time with increasingly rapid growth. Actually, this one is much more realistic than the next one. There are lots of details that those who are about to fall into this trap don't know. For instance, there are actually quite a few major trends that will really change the world. Also, if a new major trend does appear, it will probably be years from now rather than right now or in the immediate future. More importantly, the development of a great trend that has already been identified will continue for a long time with increasingly rapid growth. Actually, this one is much more realistic than the next one. If we are able to grab onto one major trend in our lifetime, we are already very lucky. 2.5 The trend within the trend. Choices are most important thing, especially in investing. If we review what we've gone through so far, we have already made many choices. Choices are the most important things, especially in investing. If we review what we've gone through so far, we have already made many choices. One or everything global, the best part regions, the best parts of the best parts, sector, a combination of the best investment in the best parts of the best parts. It's a lot of decisions, but they are easy to summarize. It's a lot of decisions, but they are easy to summarize. All of them are decisions about trends, not choosing just one investment, but stepping back and choosing to invest in everything. It's done in order to reduce risk and keep up with the global trend. In this case, alpha is 0. Choosing the best parts of a tour is done in order to find the parts that are developing the fastest and in doing so create positive alpha. Choosing the best parts of the best parts is done to create even higher alpha by following trends. Finally, choosing a combination of investment in the best parts of the best parts is pursuing the same goal. First, reduce risk, and then see if it is possible to increase alpha. It is a lot of decisions, but they are easy to summarize. All of them are decisions about trends, not choosing just one investment, but stepping back. The choosing to invest in everything is done in order to reduce risk and keep up with the global trend. In this case, alpha is zero. Choosing the best path of the whole is done in order to find the paths that are developing the fastest. Alpha is zero. Choosing the best path of the whole is done in order to find the paths that are developing the fastest, and in doing so create positive alpha. Choosing the best path of the best path is done to create even higher alpha by following trends. Finally, choosing combinations of investments in the best path of the best path is pursuing the same goal. First, reduce risk, and then see if it is possible to increase alpha. In order to choose our combination of investments, the most simple, direct, brutal, and effective principle is this: match the sector's development trends. Match the sector's development of trends in order to choose our combination of investments. The most simple, direct, brutal, and effective principle is this: match the sector of development trends in order to choose our combination of investments. In order to choose our combination of investments, the most simple, direct, brutal, and effective principle is this: match the sector's development trends. In order to choose our combination of investments, the most simple, direct, brutal, and effective principle is this: match the sector's development trends. Below, I will take box as an example because it is a combination of investments that was chosen through this process. Risk warning. The strategy of regular investment is objectively correct, but it is impossible to remove subjective judgment from the choice of investment for regular investing. So the choice of investments for regular investing is the responsibility of which investor. Each investor must use their own money and time over the long term to take responsibility for their own choices. Please be cautious. The strategy of regular investment is objectively correct, but it is impossible to remove subjective judgment. From the choice of investment for regular investing. So the choice of investments for regular investing is the responsibility of each investor. Each investor must use their own money and time over the long term to take responsibility for their own choices. Please be cautious. This section is primarily about how I choose BTC, EOS, and SHIN to the components of box, and it necessarily contains some of my own subjective judgments. You must use your own objective understanding of the objective world to choose your own investment. This section is primarily about how I choose BTC, EOS, and XIN to be the components of box, and it necessarily contains some of my own subjective judgments. You must use your own objective understanding of the objective world to choose your own investment. Conflicts of interest notice. I'm a long-term holder of BTC from May of 2011. I was an angel investor in Block 1, which develops EOS May of 2017. I was an angel investor in Missing Network October of 2017. Conflict of interest notice. I'm a long-term holder of BTC from May of 2011. I was an angel investor in Block 1, which developed EOS May of 2017. I was an angel investor in Missing Network. After 8 years of observation, thinking, and practice, I think that blockchain technology has a development path that is slowly becoming apparent. After 8 years of observation, thinking, and practice, I think that blockchain technology has a development path that is slowly becoming apparent. Trusted Ledger BTC, Trusted Platform for Code, ETHEOS, Trusted Execution Environment, Missing Trusted Hardware. After 8 years of observation, thinking, and practice, I think that blockchain technology has a development path that is slowly becoming apparent.